What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. This last week was our biggest ever for our members, including 2 more millionaires. Let's get to the winners. NFL was our biggest cash cow last week, highlighted by some great calls across all of our content, including JT Hayes being all over the 49ers game script on Sunday. Subscribe to our YouTube page now so you don't miss calls like this.
A little bit like the San Francisco defense, 3,200. I think Todd Bowles is a terrible head coach. And I think they'll come in with a terrible game plan in this game. And I think they could get wiped. I think it means a lot of touches for Christian McCaffrey. So if you simply pivot from Henry to McCaffrey, that's a huge ownership discount.
In addition, our cores and player pools were littered with the highest scoring players on the slate. Our members were in sync with our content, and the leaderboards proved it. Peter Pan 14 kicked things off, hitting for $117K in NFL Showdown. J-Dub 115 hit for $7K. Sammy Davis Jr. hit for $10K. OG member Brittany turned $75 into $11K. J. Ree won $30K. CSP 246 shipped $40K. Craven or Vad used Mangones and my weekly construction advice to hit for $40K. And K. Phallic hit for $46K with a Russell Wilson lineup. We'll get to our biggest NFL winners in just a second, but first we need to shout out some big wins in our other sports. Our content continued to crush in the soccer streets, with NYG fan hitting for $10K. K. Phallic's hot streak continued in the World Cup, shipping for $27K. In NBA, Long Dick Dong hit for $7K, while in MMA, Sevens Vox shipped a monster $51K. At Rumpier Sports, we take pride in featuring content contributors who actually make a living playing DFS. We put our money behind our picks on every slate, unlike many of our competitors. There's nothing better than when our members benefit from our content, and this week was the best week yet, producing 2 DraftKings Millie Maker winners to follow up last week's Millie Maker success. Shout out to Deepwater, who shipped $1 million in the 44-44. And huge shout out as well to Gordon Jonathan. He shipped the $20 Millionaire Maker with a monster score of 272 DK points, blowing away the competition. Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. And while you're watching, hit that like button now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
What's going on, everyone? AP over here at Rumpier Sports, bringing to you once again the lineup building show. I'm here with our partner Sabersim. We got Jordan. Jordan, what's going on, my man? Another Thursday. These weeks fly by. It's absolutely crazy. How's your day going so far?
It's good. Yeah, no, week's going great. Was pleasantly surprised to see that we had this 3-game Saturday slate here going on this week. And I always forget that they do this in the latter half of the NFL regular season. We did the 3-gamer for Thanksgiving here on this show a couple weeks ago, which was a lot of fun. I think it's a little bit of a different angle for this show. Excited to talk about this one here today. I think we got an interesting slate, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, we do. I'm actually really excited too. This is a very interesting slate. We got monster contests on both sides. We got a Millie Maker on DraftKings. We got, 333, 200K up top. This is actually the next 2 weeks, Jordan, I think are going to be very exciting. Mm-hmm. You got to love like this Christmas slate coming up that we have. It's always Christmas is always the NBA, but now we get the NFL on Christmas Day too. So we're going to have back-to-back weeks where we get these nice 3-game slates. This one looks good too. We got a dome game with the Colts Vikings. Nice total of 48 points there. Colts, I think, coming off a bye. We got Ravens Browns, low total outside. Then we got the Dolphins Bills, which they could be playing through a snowstorm. So I think it's going to be a really fun slate to break down and do what we do each and every week, which is talk through it using Sabersim. So let's go on and do it. And first off, though, everyone, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot over here at Rumpier Sports, bringing to you free content daily, every single day, multiple pieces of content. one of those has been the World Cup soccer stuff with Jaime, Rubio. These guys are absolutely crushing it. Just monster wins each and every slate. So you absolutely love to see it. But let's focus in. Let's dive into this slate. Let's do our base build. Walk the people through what a base build is.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, we do this every time. We do this for the Showdown. We'll do this for the 3 gamers here. Base build basically is going to be, building the best possible lineups based on the average projections, right? What are the top cash optimals? And I think this could be a really good way. I typically do the first 500 of these here. So we'll just put 500 here in and get this going. This could be a really good way of just like getting the lay of the land of the slate. You'll get to see who the best plays are by the average projections. You'll also really get to get a good idea of what the field's going to do, right? These average projections, people using other optimizers, other tools like that. These are going to be the kinds of lineups that are just very easy to make. There's going to be a lot of ownership on these types of constructions, these plays. So, when you first pull up Sabersim, it can be kind of hard. You got all the player projections, you got the ownership, you got the team totals, just a lot of data to look at to start processing to figure out what the slate looks like. We like to do this base build here just to kind of simplify that, get an idea of what some of those top lineups look like here. So I like to do the top 500. You can do a bigger build, you can do a smaller build if you're a little short on time, but this is typically how I like to get things started.
Yeah, I like to do that too. And we all have like our process of what we do initially. Like, so for me, I've done kind of my macro overview where I'm looking at, okay, how have these teams fared? Like, from a defense offense standpoint, what are the Colts doing? What are the Vikings doing, et cetera? And then I like to dive into this, do our base builds. And then I like to see what everyone else is doing. I like to get a good idea of where ownership is going to be at, especially on these smaller slates. If you know what everyone else is going to be doing, that's like the greatest edge ever. Like, that's how you once you know that, now okay, how can I get different? And I think that's like kind of what we're trying to do on the show too. So, all right, you got this up. What are we getting in this base build? We're getting a Matt Ryan. We're getting a lot of this first game. Look at that full on stack. Is that the highest projected build?
That is the optimal lineup. Yeah, with the projections as they are right now. I mean, and you can just see and look at these exposures. So much exposure to this Vikings Colts game. I mean, it is the first player we see that's not playing in that game is the Bills defense, and it's the 9th most highest exposed player on the board here. Then the next one is another defense. The first skill position player playing not in this game that shows up in the cash optimals is Raheem Mostert here at around 18% of these. So yeah, I mean, overwhelming exposure to this first game played in the Dome, highest total on the board here.
This is going to be such like an interesting slate because can you trust Dusty Matt Ryan to get it done here? I mean, just look at what these teams are doing against the Vikings. And let's talk about the receiver position. So like when you're just looking at total wide receiver points, like I want to know in a game, your wide receiver, you caught a ball, isolate that position. What have you done against this Vikings defense? They played the Lions. They played the Jets, the Patriots, Cowboys, Buffalo, Washington, Arizona, and Dolphins. Last 8 games, what I'm looking at. Against Detroit, they got smoked. They gave up 66 DK points. They gave up a total of 47 against the Jets, 45 to the Patriots. So like right out of the gate, Jets, Patriots, not like these powerhouse offenses where you think of like piling up yards through the air, but this Vikings defense just continues to get slaughtered. So it's like, can Matt Ryan, is he going to be able to connect to Michael Pittman, to Paris Campbell, to Alec Pierce, a guy I have a ton of interest in this week? Alex Pierce has looked really good. He's coming off, last time we saw him was the Cowboys, 8 targets. In that game, they got absolutely smoked. Like this Colts team, after their win over the Raiders, has not looked good at all, especially defensively. Especially offensively. Their defense has been okay at times. That Raiders game was kind of just one of those things where they just piled it on and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But they have been better against the run. So, I mean, when you just look at like flow chart, what's been working, it's crazy, but it's play the opposing quarterback, which would be Matt Ryan, pair him with your receivers, which would be Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, or Michael Pittman. So really interesting. And then, the Vikings have been a little bit better against tight ends. They've allowed, over the last 8 games, they've allowed four touchdowns to tight ends. But one of those games, had 2 of the touchdowns in it. So, and then, when you think about the Colts and how they're, at the tight end position, they have Jelani Woods, they have Kylan Granson, they got Mo Alley Cox. Really, really difficult situation. So I guess to sum it up, this first game is going to be really important. Can Matt Ryan connect to his receivers and take advantage of a bad secondary that the Vikings have? And then how are the Vikings going to attack the Colts? The Colts have been, they give up 4.1 yards per rush. They have given up, only 6 touchdowns to running, 11 touchdowns to running backs over the last 8 games. Man, so maybe it sets up as a good one, kind of a standard when we think about our standard way of stacking your quarterback, receiver, running back with like a running back. That's something that I'm looking at. Then the other thing that I love about the Vikings, just to, kind of top this game off, Jordan, is Justin Jefferson. I mean, the guy is an absolute machine. He's going to get a ton of targets here. I think the Vikings, when you just think of like a target tree, very predictable in this spot. Dalvin Cook, I think they're going to have success on the ground. And then it's going to be Justin Jefferson. I think my big fade is TJ Hawkinson. I think when you look at on these smaller slates, the tight end position is always really interesting because it's a high variant, it's a highly volatile position. It's one that's tougher to predict, in my opinion. And even these guys that get a lot of volume, that creates a nice floor. But man, is he really going to kill you? I mean, especially when this Colts team has been pretty decent against that tight end position. So, man, if we fade TJ Hawkinson, if we focus on Justin Jefferson, if we focus on Dalvin Cook, and then on the other side of it, if we do play a script where the Colts are playing from behind, I think it does set up well to create kind of that foundation of our build. But we've seen in these 3-game slates, overstack, fully, overstack this first game, even if it like grades out to be one of the best spots on paper that we could imagine. Think back to Thanksgiving Day. It's like it doesn't work out like that. It never does. Like, think about that slate. We all, or at least I did, and I know many others, we hammered that first game on the Thanksgiving slate. And it was the last game. You had to have fully stacked that late game. I can't remember who was playing, but
it was the Vikings again. It was
the Vikings.
Was it Saints Vikings playing in that last game of the night? I think that was what it was.
So maybe this is the slate where it actually pans out. But it's really interesting seeing that the Opto is just absolutely loving that. Do we want to, before like fully diving into each and every one of these games, I guess we kind of did tackle the Colts Vikings, or I went on a rant there, but do we want to run? So we got our base cash build.
Yeah.
Do we want to backtrack and just see what the base tournament build looks like?
I think we should. I think we're building this here for like a large field contest is the idea here. I mean, I guess I should preface this by saying, one of the things that's really cool about Sabersim is you can build lineups that are set up for contests of different sizes and styles here. So
I like the sliders there. I say we go full 10 to the max, and I like where the ownership fades at too. So
perfect.
I want to see contrasting styles without changing any projections.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it. So we'll see what this one is. And what this is doing is this is actually now going into the individual game sims we have for each game, using a subset of those sims, basically how do different players play in different game outcomes, fading ownership heavily, and then building tournament ready lineups here for us for something like the Millie Maker or the larger field GPPs. And we can start to get an idea of maybe some different angles of how to play this slate. So we'll go ahead here and open this up. I mean, you can see ownership fade at 7, right? We're still really getting to a lot of these guys here. Now we're getting to more unique plays in that game, right? Alexander Madison, interesting idea there. Gesicki here, you're seeing some like very low owned guys coming in to break these lineups up a little bit here. But still a lot of ownership here to that first game on the slate. Basically, I mean, Sabersim's saying, the way that the Sims want to play this slate out right now is stack that game up, get to the highest total game on the slate, and then differentiate your lineup by basically just taking a couple shots on some guys that like no one is getting to, which I think it's an interesting angle here.
Yeah, I like that. So, I mean, when we just think about it, from a big picture standpoint, you're going to want exposure to this first game. It does grade out very nicely. It's in a dome, so many different things set up nicely for it. But I think this is like a nice rule slate where we set some rules.
Mhm.
We put a limit on how many players from this first game. We try to like maybe it's if we're playing, it's like one of those if we're playing slates, like if we're playing one of the receivers, maybe it is Michael Pittman. We're not playing Paris Campbell. We're not playing Alec Pierce. Or if we're playing, like maybe it's a slate where we create groups. Like we hope in this first game that one player or maybe two players get all of the target share, they get all of the production, and then we get bits and pieces from these other games. And what I'm going to is okay. So the narrative right now is Tua can't play in the cold. I know there's good data that backs that up. I'm not even like the biggest Tua guy either, but this Bills secondary hasn't been that good. They've been pretty leaky. They gave up when you're just looking at, so they played, let me pull this up real quick. I mean, all right. So they gave up 38 to the Jets, 20, but that was to the Patriots, a team that likes to run the ball, 48 total DK points to receivers to the Lions. They got torched by Cleveland. They got torched by the Jets. And then you got the Green Bay game, and then Kansas City, did their thing. That game actually played a little bit more defensive. I mean, I know the secondary is getting healthy. I know they're going to be, like on paper, they should be good when they're all healthy. Sometimes that takes time. Maybe we actually see them show up here. But if I'm the Dolphins, I'm trying to get the ball to Tyreek Hill. Just get him in space, get him the ball no matter what. So, like, when I think of how to attack this Bills team, it's get Tyreek the ball. And then I do think that you're going to see run-heavy scripts from Mostert, from Jeff Wilson. So that's something that we can factor in to the equation. I think the other thing, too, is anytime in these big games, which I think this is a big game, think about the Bills. If you look at the Bills against the Chiefs right now, I think this is very important. So the Chiefs have an easy schedule. I see them winning each and every game here on out. They get to play the Raiders again. I think they get to play the Broncos again. They get to play the Texans this week. The Bills, though, their schedule is much tougher to finish out the season. And if they drop one game, and if Kansas City goes undefeated, the road to the Super Bowl again will go through Arrowhead. I think the Bills need to win out. I think they know that. I think every game is very important. In these important games, you see Josh Allen use his legs a lot more. And I think that's going to be something that we see this week. So, like, what I'm getting at here is I want Allen, but I want to cap who we're stacking with. I think Allen, obviously, going to be a great quarterback option. Maybe we get him a little bit lower owned. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at projections yet. It would be hard to imagine a world where we have 3 games going on and Josh Allen's one of the quarterbacks, and then you're going up against the likes of like Matt Ryan. You're going up Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't care if it's like snowing like crazy. You got to figure that Allen's going to get some ownership just because he can get it done so many different ways. But we can cap who it can be Allen to Gabe Davis, Allen to Diggs, or we can target the running backs there. James Cook has factored in into the equation. We've seen him randomly. He had, so against the Browns, 11 carries, against the Patriots, 14 carries. If they go back to a run heavy script, because we're getting a lot of weather there, you have to think that they're going to use Devin Singletary, James Cook. So I don't know, Jordan. Like, I think it's a good slate to really dive in there and create some rules. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like it. And I've kind of been creating some of these rules here as you've been talking. So I did create one basically just to say that we want to do a stack if we're going to use Josh Allen, at least one of his pass catchers, but then created another one here. And actually, I'm thinking on a 3-game slate, it might make more sense to say use no more than 2 Bills pass catchers. We can make that one if you want. It just seems like, I don't know, 3 games, not a lot of options. I could see a situation where Josh Allen gets it going on the ground and still makes 2 of his pass catchers optimal in the lineup. But I do like the idea of going there. I mean, strategically, I like this game a lot. I actually kind of think that my favorite angle on the slate is to make more of a stronger stance against this first game. It just seems like in terms of what is most likely to happen, is the winning lineup more likely to just be a stack from a different game entirely, or is it going to be a chalky Matt Ryan stack, but you happen to be the guy that played, 1% own Madison on the other side or 1% own Doolin on the Colts side. So I do kind of like the idea of getting to this game here and targeting that one. And I'm leaning into fading the first game a little bit more and more as we're talking about it here.
So just to add to that, the Dolphins have given up 5 touchdowns the last 8 games to tight ends. So Dawson Knox, I know he's having a bad year fantasy wise, but I have interest in Dawson Knox. I think he's and if we get like a snow game, bad weather, it just seems like a game where Knox does his thing. And then speaking of tight ends, because like my one big stand initially is TJ Hawkinson. When you look at all the tight ends on this slate, TJ Hawkinson has to get a ton of ownership. The target share has just been incredible. And again, like I'm not going to try to talk anyone off of playing TJ Hawkinson. I'm just talking, I want full leverage here. And man, the Colts, they've been pretty good against opposing tight ends. 1 touchdown last 8 games. They've really done a good job at limiting production. Now, obviously, and actually, like the Cowboys, they held Schultz in check. I mean, the Patriots, a team that likes to throw to the tight end. Titans, they like to throw to the tight end. So, I mean, these Philly too. Obviously, Goddard was out during that game, but teams that do like to involve Pittsburgh, they like to involve the tight end, and this team's very good at covering tight ends. So, like my initial stand, fade TJ Hawkinson. Then on the flip side, the Ravens have been very bad against tight ends. They've allowed steady production to that position. I think David Njoku is a phenomenal play to look at the tight end position. And then Dawson Knox is the other guy that I really like. And then fading like the Mark Andrews, the TJ Hawkinson. So I think that's like at one position, one way where we can start to get a little bit different. And then it's just looking at that middle game. I actually like producer Simon. We were talking before the show. He thinks that maybe, just maybe, Deshaun Watson gets it going here. And maybe a little bit better last game. Obviously, very rusty the game before. Completed 62% of his passes. He was 26 for 42, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 276 yards against a good Cincinnati defense, against a Cincinnati defense that really limited Mahomes the week before. So I don't hate that call at all. I actually kind of like it. I think the Browns are pretty sneaky. I like Deshaun Watson to David Njoku, who was his favorite target last week. I think that's going to be a very interesting stack. And then on the other side, just kind of going through, looking at my flow chart, you can run on the Browns. J.K. Dobbins looked phenomenal last week. Shout out to Snyder. He actually got me on Dobbins a little bit, our local Ravens expert. And he got in the box and he looked good, man. It was his first game back. Got 15 rushes. He 120 yards on the ground against Pittsburgh. I don't know. You got to like Dobbins here. I think he's one of the better running back plays on this slate. So another game. I know it's a low total, but a game that we can create some nice rules around stacking.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, as you've been talking here, I've been kind of just going and bumping players up or down, 10 or 20% based on these names. And I think that's like a great way to use Sabersim here, right? You're watching the show, listening to the analysis there and just bumping some players up or down based on, and you don't have to necessarily agree with every take, but based on your, what you're hearing and your own thoughts here, you can update these guys up or down. I mean, a guy that, I actually think is kind of interesting here, and I think I'm going to leave it alone because I like the idea for this build of playing the angle that Watson is effective throwing the ball. But if you play the under on this game, or even just like maybe the situation where this game kind of is close to its implied total, I actually kind of like Nick Chubb a little bit here as well. As somebody that typically doesn't play a lot of Nick Chubb, it seems like the Browns are pretty happy to kind of ease Watson back in slowly, play a very simplified offense here as well. I could see them, especially if they do end up in a positive game script in this game, even if that just means scoring first, Nick Chubb getting 30 carries in this game pretty easily. So I don't hate that angle, but I like the idea of bumping up Watson and Njoku here a little bit and playing the angle where the Browns offense is successful through the air.
Yeah, I like that too. So I wasn't following along. Did you set any rules up as well?
I said a couple, yeah. So I'm mostly
Okay,
targeting the Bills to make sure that we're giving Josh Allen a pass catcher in his stacks, but then making sure that we're not using any more than 2 of them in a given lineup. So if there's any others here, I think one that you had mentioned here was kind of splitting up this first game of doing something like max 1 for Pittman, Campbell, and Pierce. Did I hear that one correctly to make sure that we're not stacking these guys together?
Yeah, because I do see that as like if you play Matt Ryan and if he lands in the like, all right, so it's Matt Ryan. Like I cringe thinking about the idea of playing him. He had one good game against the Raiders since their coaching change, and then he did have good games against the Jags and the Titans earlier in the season. So I mean, man, in the right script, maybe he could get it done. And just thinking about kind of the issues that Allen has had of late and the weather there, and that the fact that it's Josh Allen, maybe Matt Ryan, even though the optos were jamming him in like we saw, maybe people do kind of what I normally do. And I'm just like, I'm not playing that dusty dude. And they cross him out. Maybe that leads to him being a little bit lower owned. So I'm definitely not fading Matt Ryan. I'm definitely fading Kirk Cousins. I don't like him at all. I'd rather just focus on Cook and Justin Jefferson than fade Hawkinson, and then might even fade every other piece in that game, and then get bits and pieces from the Colts side. Like I even think Jonathan Taylor is fine. We know they want to give him we know they want to give him the ball. Like, look at this: 21, 20, 22, 22 rush attempts last 4 games since their coaching changes. 4, 4, 4, 2 targets. So we know he's going to get maybe 23 to 25 potential touches here. I know they have line issues. I know that they haven't been good, but fading him at 7,200, man, I don't like. I think that would be a bad move to make. And so I definitely want to keep him in the pool. I think he's fine. I don't even think it matters like how it correlates. It's just a bet on the production there. And then the other running backs that I really like is just J.K. Dobbins. And then it's figuring out the Bills-Dolphins situation, because we know it could be Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Singletary, Cook. We know volume is going to be there, maybe just a little bit unpredictable on where it's going to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Dolphin situation is interesting. I think in particular, I imagine we'll get some news here as we get a little bit closer to Saturday. But I mean, it seemed like Wilson was pretty seriously injured in last week. I think if I remember correctly, I think he got carted off. So I imagine it's unlikely that he plays. It looks like we've got him as questionable right now, a small projection here for him. I think Mostert, people will latch on to Mostert as the value play there. I mean, I think that's also a potential fade spot if
that's a good
the Dolphins
too.
Are in a negative game script there. I mean, I like the idea of getting to the passing attack, even if it's cold, even if it's snowy. I mean, if the Bills score early, they're going to have to move the ball. I mean, the Dolphins are playing for the playoffs too. So I like the idea of maybe being on the other side of that game there too.
Yeah, I like that. I actually like that call. I completely forgot. I'm looking at a projection on him that looks kind of decent. So obviously it's an early look. These, Fridays, Saturdays, I spent a lot of time trying to dive into all the injury stuff. And, my main sport being NBA, 7 days a week. And we know what the injury situation is like in the NBA. It's crazy. So it always takes me a little bit longer just to get fully up to date on the injury situation NFL wise. So that's a good call there. How about we run? Are we ready yet to kind of run
think
this?
So.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, I did want to show this off, especially for the people out there. I know there's some folks that watch this that have a lot of rules, that carry a lot of rules over slate to slate. People have been asking for a while. Please let us just delete all our rules at once. You now can. We added that here this week. You got a trash can icon. You can trash everything at once. You can also trash things by category. So let's say you want to keep your base stack rule that you use every slate, but you want to freshen up all the group rules that are more about individual players, different games, that particular slate. You can use this trash icon. I don't have any stack rules here in this case, but this would only trash the grouping rules. So
would be a really cool feature to have. And probably this is going to give you guys all a headache thinking about it. But for me, all right, last night's a good example. I ran, I was only building 5 lineups, but I wanted to run a few different scripts for each one. And so while I was, we were on the show and doing the different things, updating the heat map, at the same time, I was reworking these scripts. And what I mean by that is I would do exactly what we just did right now, where we alter things, we change things, we create rules, we bump up and down projections, maybe we delete players. And then I would run my build, I would go through the builds, and I'd pick out the best ones I like. I would plug those in, and then I would reset everything. And I would now run a different script. Maybe my script is okay. Now maybe it's so. Last night it was like, I think Trae Young, if he's motivated, the Orlando Magic were giving up a ton of points to opposing guards. Could be a Trae Young get right spot, and so that was my other script. What would be cool is for people like me that like to have different scripts. Playing them all out, whatever, is to be able to save the settings. And maybe it's like this one. Maybe it's okay, under on the script that we just created is under on the Colts Vikings game, over on, like, we title it whatever we want, but it gets saved into the system. You could always go back and look at it, and then you create a new script. How hard do you think that would be? Too difficult to create on your guys' end?
It's not too difficult. It's a big project. We're already talking about it, moving in that direction.
I was going to say, hopefully Andy's not listening to this and be like, AP, shut up, man.
No. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that have requested that. I mean, in a lot of different ways, right? Sometimes it's not even just game scripts, like just different ways where you could kind of set up different like build types, and have your work from the previous one without having to start from fresh every time. So yeah, no, definitely on our radar. We're already kind of talking about it on our end. It's a pretty big project.
That would be game changing. Because when I'm thinking about, especially for NBA, because I will run, okay, what if, because like with NBA, and we'll have to do another show for this, but I'll show people what I mean. You could probably recreate it. If you look at the heat map, I have my core play guys that I like. I just like them no matter what. I bump them all up. And then what I do is I run different scripts. I run what if this game just goes way over the total? What if it's a Knicks game that gets into overtime again? It seems like every Knicks game goes to overtime. It's crazy. I mean, we saw it again last night. So it's just having, and then, titling and everything. I think it would make for a really cool feature. But yeah, anyways, if you guys agree, let me know, send me a message, and I'll keep on the Saber guys to get that enhancement added. But anyways, let's dive back to this. Let's get this thing running, and let's see what the builds look like.
I'm going to make one change here this time, and I'm going to bring the ownership fade slider down here a little bit. I think two things. One, we've made some adjustments here now. We've bumped some players up. We've removed some players. We've set a couple rules. We're already going to get a little bit more unique just because of that, right? We're not just playing with the base build here anymore. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit just to see how it looks. We can always turn it back up if we want. I guess that's the only change I wanted to make, but I think that's a good idea. If you're updating players, if you're setting rules, if you're curating a player pool, you are naturally going to get a little bit different. I think there's a pretty strong case to reduce your ownership fade, especially down from 7. We saw that on the first build we ran. We were getting like 1% owned, 0% owned guys. You got to get a little bit different to take down a big GPP on a 3-game slate. I don't know if we need to get that different to build good lineups here. We're still, right off the bat, you're still seeing we're getting some low owned guys in here. So, but anyway, let's take a look and see what's happening here. First of all, one thing that jumps out, we're still getting to a lot of this Colts and Vikings game here, but we did get a little bit more exposure here to the Buffalo side. We bumped Josh Allen a little bit. We're getting some of his pass catchers here. Some of the guys that we gave those projection bumps to as well. Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook both pop in here quite a bit. We got a little bit of Nick Chubb in that first lineup with the Browns D, which I kind of like. All of these names here, right? All these guys in greens are the guys that we bumped here. So you can see those projection adjustments here were working well for us. I was going to look to see if we are.
I can't get over the fact that Matt Ryan continues to lead the way. He's going to get some ownership, man.
I think so. I really do. That was the first thing I took away from that cash build. I think we have him at 19% right now. I think he's going to be over Josh Allen, which is kind of crazy to think, but it's hard just seeing how hard it is to get off him in these builds. I think a lot of people are going to be on Colts stacks.
Man, God, I keep going back. Like, he's 5'2". So then the other question is, how does he kill us? If he's chalk, how does he kill us? It's a script where this game goes over, where Like, what's his ceiling? 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe like, and if he does that, does he absolutely kill us? Like, that's just a lot to ask for Matt Ryan. God, like, come on, man, come on, Vikings. Like, one time, just get the defense going. Like, the other thing that I could see killing this game is what if we get a run heavy script? What if the Colts, they want to run the ball? We know that. What if Taylor's having a good day on the ground? We know it's easier to run on the Colts than it is necessarily to throw, except for Justin Jefferson. He's definitely the one guy I want to try to get in there. I think he's the best receiver on the slate to target. Yeah, it's interesting. Then it's okay if we're not playing him. Where else do we go? I don't like Kirk Cousins, so I'm not going to go there. I know he's coming off a good game against the Lions, but the script worked out perfect. He got 425 yards, 2 touchdowns. I would rather bet against that. I would rather bet against Matt Ryan and Cousins. So that leaves Josh Allen. That leaves Tua, which I don't want to play Tua. And that leaves Tyler Huntley and Deshaun Watson. I like Simon's Deshaun Watson call, man. I think that's like, where was he popping up? Like, were we getting any Deshaun Watson into our lineups?
We were getting, I mean, here, let's see. So not in the top 150. Actually a little bit. So we have 20% in the pool here. We were getting 4% in the top 150. So, I mean, would be a good opportunity to at least check out my favorite feature in the app here is the min uniques, and like diversify our lineups a little bit more here. You can see we're getting up to, 7.5% Deshaun Watson in our 150 here as we increase this. There's 12% when we go to 4 min uniques here, but not a ton. But I mean, we can go back and adjust the projections more. I mean, I was already going back and making some additional rules. One that I thought was kind of interesting here. I don't know your thoughts on this, but I was almost thinking we basically just say, if we're playing Jonathan Taylor, we're playing no other Colts. And we're basically playing the angle, especially at 60% ownership. He's really got to be the guy to be optimal. And if we play him, let's just fade the rest of the Colts and just assume that it's Jonathan Taylor just killing it on the ground. I kind of like that rule. I'm also good with coming back and bumping up Deshaun Watson a little bit more on this projection here.
Yeah, my one problem is Alec Pierce, Campbell, like these guys are cheap, and in that. So, okay, thinking through that script, that means, all right. So that means that they are leaning on the run. So for Jonathan Taylor to be optimal, kind of is a Colts win script. If you think about it, meaning that they aren't relying on the pass. And then you got the 4 tight ends.
Maybe it's just no Matt Ryan with Jonathan Taylor, and we just take him out of the stacks. I think that maybe makes a little bit more sense here.
What about
some more flexibility?
Just Xing out the quarterbacks from this game, and the playmakers are fine. Because if we think Matt Ryan is going to get ownership, which he has to, just look at what. We've tried to reduce them down. It seems like we've tried to implement rules to limit that, to get exposure to other games. And what happens? Matt Ryan pops back into our life. So maybe we just got to delete Kirk Cousins. I don't like Tyler Huntley. He can get it. Maybe that is the route. We cancel. We cancel the old dusty dudes. Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins. Tyler Huntley can run, man. He definitely can. Deshaun Watson. Well, I know what he did. He ran, 6 rush attempts last game, 7 the week before that. I know he hasn't looked great, but he did look better against the Bengals. I don't mind them. And then you got Josh Allen, like 3 guys that are going to run the ball. I don't mind just like concentrating on those guys and eliminating the other. It has to eliminate what? Maybe 45, 50% of the ownership. Do you think that's too high?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, it's a 3-game slate. Josh Allen's on the slate, and we're talking about him potentially being only the 3rd highest quarterback.
I like that. You got Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson together. I like it because we know the Vikings want to get those 2 guys the ball. And then that's how like Kirk Cousins like doesn't end up in the optimal when it's like, okay, he's just peppering Justin Jefferson, who gets like 10 catches for 137 and a touchdown. And then you got Dalvin Cook with the other, volume, in the rush attempts. Maybe he gets over 100 and gets into the box too. Then you got Mostert. Was he? He is the guy that you said got
No,
injured last game.
Jeff
Right?
Wilson got hurt.
Wilson did. Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, Mostert. I like that. And then yeah, I don't mind the Pittman there either. And then you got McKenzie. I like the Josh Allen to Dawson Knox and Isaiah McKenzie. And the reason I like it is we all get so focused on Steph Diggs and Gabe Davis. And you know what? You know who else is focused on those two guys too? The opposing defenses. They're always dialed in, especially in these divisional rivalry games. You are going to see the Dolphins focus in on Diggs and Davis. Every team has been focusing on Steph Diggs, and he still produces, coming off a tough game last week against the Jets. But I like the idea of maybe it's McKenzie gets one of those. I think he was the hero on Thanksgiving, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
he was. And then Dawson Knox, that's more of a flow chart play for me. I like that pairing though. I think that's pretty unique. So interesting build. I like Devin Duvernay too. So that's an interesting build concept, the one I could definitely get behind in a 3-game slate format. You have any thoughts on that too? Any of these builds that are popping up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the overall like ownership of these builds a little bit more, rather than playing a ton of chalk and then trying to get different with like 2 1% owned guys. You're just playing lower owned constructions here, where you're getting a lower owned stack, or some guys with some higher upside that are a little bit lower on themselves. So I like this direction a lot more. I honestly could see myself potentially like even just locking in Josh Allen at captain, or not a captain. I'm so used to doing showdowns here on the show at quarterback here, and just being happy that you're getting the most talented quarterback at the 3rd most popular play there, and just seeing what 150 Bills stacks look like.
I'm looking at one thing that Tyler Huntley does and what Matt Ryan would do at their price is, look at this. We got a Justin Jefferson build, and we got Tyreek Hill in there too. I mean, it allows you, so the value there allows you to build up and to get multiple stud receivers. Then you got Gabe Davis in there too. I mean, 3 guys that all have the ability to break a slate, and you still have a good quality running back in there too. So if I were, all right, going back to the Dusty Matt Ryan take, if I were to play him, I think it would have to be like Matt Ryan, and then limiting, like not overstacking it. Like I wouldn't want Matt Ryan because I think that's what everyone would do. I'd want Matt Ryan and like an Alex Pierce, and then go outside of this game and then get, then run it back with a Justin Jefferson. And then I'd try to jam in like a Tyreek Hill and, another high upside slate breaking type of, skill position player. I think that's the move I would make. I think it could be a popular route as well. So I like this idea of like if we're punting, maybe we go Tyler Huntley over a Matt Ryan, just banking on maybe he runs one in, separates himself there. Maybe he picks up a couple of plays where he gets like 20, 30-yard rushes in one attempt, and then gets inside the box too. I mean, those things happen all the time. And then the same thing with Deshaun Watson. I mean, you can make the case there as well. So I don't know, man. It's an interesting slate. It's for me, like, I don't know, I'm going to be dialed in, focused on isolating some of these spots with some of these key guys, at the positions like quarterback and Josh Allen, maybe making a stand where we fade the Matt Ryans of the world, Kirk Cousins. I mean, it seems like it might be the move. Is there any other builds that you see that are really interesting that are popping up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you are going to play Josh Allen and you're going to play him in a way where you're getting some of these other high dollar things, these other high dollar players, you got to be willing to get a little bit weird somewhere. One thing I'm noticing is actually pretty common here is we're getting Josh Allen with the Dolphins D, who I assume is probably the cheapest defense on the board. Yeah, so I think that's actually probably going to be very unpopular, but a bit of a creative way to play Josh Allen, to save a little bit of salary and then still get some higher price guys here. I mean, you can see this is almost the same build in kind of the other direction where you're playing Allen. You're getting Jefferson, Taylor, and Chubb here, along with Gabe Davis, and then you're saving salary at like punting double tight end, Dolphins D. I kind of like this as well here. I'm talking myself more and more into being really aggressive with the Bills stacks here this weekend. So I think that's
the other
that's
defense that we could look at is the Colts. It's been, so if you just think about Kirk Cousins, he hasn't gone 3 games in a row with no interceptions at all this season. I bet you could go back to last season and the stat would extend a little bit further. But last 2 games, Detroit and the Jets, no interceptions thrown. Feel like Kirk Cousins is probably due to throw some interceptions there. So Colts defense could factor into the equation. On these smaller slates, I don't care about correlation with like running backs and stuff. Like, so for me, that's more of a main slate type of thing. Like, I'm not like plugging in that secondary stack of, oh, my running back has to like correlate with my defense. And then I also like the comment there. I don't know if the Dolphins are the move for me, but I like the idea of playing a defense against the quarterback that I'm playing as well. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
If you're playing Matt Ryan, I would almost just play the Vikings defense in there with him, because I think no one's going to do that, and that's going to get you different. Like, and it's Matt Ryan. Like he can take sacks, he can throw interceptions. Same with like the Browns. If I'm playing Tyler Huntley, we know his production is going to come on the ground. Maybe runs one in. Doesn't mean he can't throw an interception. So I mean, this is definitely a slate where you can play a defense against your quarterback that you're playing too. So I like that comment.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I definitely agree. If you're the type to have a lot of those secondary stack rules where you're correlating, different positions to one another and kind of forcing run backs on your secondary stacks, 3-game slate is a really good place to be careful with that. There is a lot of different types of constructions that can be optimal here on this slate. It's a high variance game here, especially for the 3 games. So I would scale some of those back, or at least run some builds without those on Sabersim first, see how the lineups are looking, and then see what rules you want to reintroduce there. Because I think that's one place where people can make mistakes is over constricting the builder on the really small football slates. So
I actually also don't mind double tight end on this slate if
definitely
I'm still fading the most popular tight end in TJ Hawkinson. And what I'm looking at would be David Njoku and Dawson Knox. More so playing on the fact that, one, we can attack both these teams with the tight end position, giving up a lot of touchdowns to opposing tight ends. And then it's 2, the weather. Like, I just think of like, man, when you get to these games where there's weather, it's outside, it just feels like, especially in December, that's when your tight ends like come into play, especially guys like Dawson Knox, David Njoku's been an absolute beast. So like, if I was playing the double tight end build route, it would definitely be with those 2 right there. The other thing that I could see just being crazy going back, like, this is true milli maker. This is if you're running 150 into the milli, that $20 million up top, is I could see like a Matt Ryan to where I'm fading all the popular tight ends. And maybe it's a Jelani Woods, maybe Kylan Granson, maybe Mo Alley Cox. And then that's it from that game. And then I'm spinning up everywhere elsewhere. So it's like you got a 5.2 quarterback correlated with a 2.5K to 2.8K tight end. And then you're getting your Justin Jefferson, your Tyreek Hill, your Stephon Diggs, if you want to go that route. Like, you're getting all of your high price guys in there. But then it's the problem, and why you can't do that, and like, if you're not multi-entering, is we don't know which tight end it's going to be. Like, I think it was Johnny Woods got 4 targets. The last time they played, 9 targets the time before that. And then it was Kylan Granson. He got 6 targets against Cowboys. Mo Alley Cox, he's been a guy that, if you go back to the Titans game, 6 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. So like, when you're talking like milli maker formats, that's in the realm of possibilities, especially against the Vikings. So that's where I think you can get really, really unique.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just trying to make a stand, like in a milli maker format, like, you don't care about, like, if you just get dusted, you don't care. You want that top place prize. I'm fading TJ Hawkinson. I'm fading whatever the popular tight ends are. And I'm mix and matching some of these like super cheap punt guys that have the ability to go off. Now, if David Njoku does get steamed up, I would keep him in. I don't want to fade him. I think that play right there is going to be a pretty strong play this week. And then the same with Dawson Knox. I don't think Dawson Knox gets steamed up. He's been a bust all season long, it seems like. No, never mind. He's coming off of 7 targets, 4 receptions, 1 touchdown. That was against the Jets. We're outside. You got to figure Dawson Knox gets some ownership here, but I'm definitely fine playing it as well, especially against the Dolphins. But that's like, man, if you're Millie Maker formats, what would you do if you're building like that? You got your rules set up. Would you keep that slider all the way to the max, that 10 number?
So the way I think about the ownership fade is like, if you're not sure how you want to handle the high owned plays on a slate, having a high ownership fade can kind of help make some decisions. Sabersim will basically make your ownership decisions for you. I turn it down the more and more confident I feel that I'm handling ownership myself. So, I mean, we're adjusting player projections. We're curating a player pool. We're building some rules in. I basically feel like we've kind of moderately addressed the ownership problem for this particular slate. If we went further and we started making bigger changes or made some really strong stands on the player projections or something like that, maybe I'm bringing this down even further. So basically, I use this as how confident am I that I'm handling ownership well in the rest of my process. Sometimes I leave it up because maybe I don't have time to go super deep into a slate, or I feel like there's not really a good ownership angle. I'll let Sabersim help me out with that. Other times I'll bring it down here. So if you went all the way, to that full kind of milli maker angle where you're really going, adjusting a bunch of projections here, I would actually probably start bringing it down even further, because you don't want to double count ownership is basically the idea there. So
I like that. Hey, we got just a few minutes left. I want to do one last thing.
Yeah.
So if we could go back, maybe reset the settings real quick. I like what we got. Swoop in chat. We got a couple people there in chat. Chance Pfeiffer. Bill's going to expose to man. I kind of agree with that. What about like any time like this where weather comes into play, where a Bills overstack, onslaught stack is projecting to be very low owned? I'm going to have some interest just because we know the type of upside that this Bills team has and has shown in the past. And we know the number that they can put on. Let's try to build out like a Bills onslaught, like they beat the Dolphins 38-3 type of script, that actually aligns with the total too. So, I mean, kind of in the realm of outcomes there. And then let's do exactly what you just did. Now let's get under. Let's just say like the Colts, let's just say the Vikings are bad. Let's give them 17 and let's give the Colts 24. So kind of going inverse of what the Vegas thinks there. And then let's just say, I guess we could probably keep the Baltimore game alone. Yeah, let's just see what these changes do.
All right, perfect. And what this is doing behind the scenes is we're going into the sims we have for the game and adjusting the projections for all the players in that game to match the new total based on the sim. So really cool way. If you like to play with game scripts, you don't want to spend time adjusting, 15 different player projections. It basically adjusted it for us, right? It gave every player playing in each of these games here the right adjustment based on the new game script. So yeah, let's do that here. I'm going to again turn this down because I feel like this is another way of being unique, playing our own angle on the games here. Let's see what we get.
I like it. Actually, when the Indy win script, that gave Matt Ryan a bump. So I have a sneaky feeling that Matt Ryan's going to end up in our life once again.
I think so. And you can play with these.
It was a small bump. It was a really small bump. And Allen's bump, actually, just looking there real quick, looked way more significant. Actually, like Allen should be one of our highest owned. Yeah, there you go.
There he is.
Yeah.
So, huge bumps to basically the entire Bills offense, right? We're seeing a ton of Buffalo here, but a lot of Jonathan
crazy
Taylor, too. We're getting over on a 65% on Jonathan Taylor because you have to imagine that he's pretty involved. This is a crazy lineup here with just only Colts and Bills here. Then we get one with Njoku. So, it looks very.
The question that we would get is, can you run a build like that on a slate like this? My response would be, well, the NFL is, we've seen how many different things have we seen crazy things happen this season where it's like, we would never imagine that it could ever happen. We've seen that happen a lot. So like, could you run it? Yeah, I think you could. What's the likelihood of a script like that panning out? It's kind of tough. Like, no exposure to that. You could see it happen. You would have to, this middle game would have to be a total bust. And then the Bills would just have to absolutely lay the hammer down on them. But that's, it's interesting for sure. And I'm always down running like a few Allen onslaughts. What I might do though, Jordan, like if I was running this, is I would build in some rules. Like, I like David Njoku working in there. Yeah, I would J.K. Dobbins, a running back that I'm really going to have a ton of interest in this week. So that would be how I attack the Ravens Browns game, is with J.K. Dobbins, David Njoku, and then I would have my Bills onslaught with a piece from this first game. Maybe I don't even know if that would be possible. Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson from the first game, J.K. Dobbins, Njoku from the second game, and then every other piece from that late game. So maybe something like that off the top of my head. I don't know how it would work out or if you could even make it work, but something like that would be interesting, because I think what it would do is it would force you to pair Allen not with Stephon Diggs. It would force you to pair Allen with Gabe Davis, who's 5K, Isaiah McKenzie, who's 4-1, or Dawson Knox, double tight end, who is 3-9. So, I mean, again, kind of an interesting script right there. More of like a hand build type of approach using my flow chart, but we've seen that work in the past, so I don't hate it. Did you make that adjustment right there?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to quickly see.
Happens.
So yeah, we're saying at least Jonathan Taylor or Justin Jefferson in every lineup, and at least Dobbins or Njoku here. So we will see. We'll start to get some of these guys in here. And sometimes you can get like a ton of one, and you may have to go back. We're going to get we got a little bit of Justin Jefferson here, but we're starting to get more of those guys.
Okay, but the texture of this build, here's what I'm saying. The texture of this build makes more sense. Okay. In long shot, Millie Maker formats, but you're getting, you got running back, you got pieces from these different games. And then you got, the Jelani Woods is kind of the double tight end from the same game. Again, Millie Maker format. Could it happen? It definitely could. I mean, Jelani Woods, a target they like. And we know, even though my initial stance is to fade Hawkinson, it's not because Hawkinson's a bad play. It's more of ownership move for me. So, I mean, that would be kind of a move there, but I like the texture of how those builds are looking. Can you go down a little bit more?
How about this one here?
I mean, no, we can't. I mean, that's like,
hey, I mean, the one thing we're playing Bills win 38-3 here. And I think you got to remember that in that case, I can see how the build makes sense here. I mean, 38 points is a lot of points. Somebody's got to score those touchdowns here.
So our boy, all right. So our boy, what was his name? Let me pull up the chat real quick. Swoop. This is what I would do if I'm you. So he's a Dolphins fan. You know how to reduce the pain a little bit if your team gets absolutely spanked? Run a build like this. If I thought the Chiefs were going to get absolutely spanked, I'm going to hedge a little bit to save face. And maybe if they do get spanked, I'm still collecting some money at the same time. So I like the Isaiah Likely there too.
I like that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It seems
you got Dobbins, you got Jefferson, Taylor. You got Josh Allen, Johnny Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Jefferson, even Michael Pittman in there. This is the build I'm talking about. And then it forces you to go Allen with two cheap guys. Gabe Davis, we know he can break a slate. And then Isaiah McKenzie, a guy that seemingly factors into some of these games where it just seems like they're trying to take away their star players. So, yeah, that's really interesting. But I mean, Jordan, I'm pretty excited for this slate, man. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and we get back-to-back ones the following week too. With Christmas, we're going to get a 3-game slate as well, and the main slate's going to be on Saturday. So next week's going to be a ton of fun. And actually, everyone, so if you're out there, I think we're going to be doing kind of a schedule release here soon with what our schedule is covering, content wise, since the slates are all broken up a little bit different. And since it's around the holidays. Are we taking off content? Are we not doing content? No, we're definitely doing content. It's what we do over here at Run Pair Sports. We don't take days off. So yeah, definitely expect the content. I bet we'll have shows even on Christmas Day or Christmas morning. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So Jordan, any final thoughts? Because we're running up on time here. Any final thoughts for the Saturday slate?
Yeah, I mean, I like these Bill stacks. I do. And it feels like it's the easy take, but I think they're going to be the third most popular stack, and it's the best team on the board. So it seems like just to me, don't overthink it kind of slate where I will probably just be, I'm, me, we've been doing these streams here for a while now. I'm not the type to, I like to be pretty diversified. I'm not the type to go all in. I am really honestly thinking about a lock button on Josh Allen, at least right now, and just figuring it out from there. I like that stack so much. So that's where I'm at.
I could never argue against a lock button play. That's my style.
Yeah.
But man, Deshaun Watson, like some of these other quarterbacks, I think I'm going to have some interest in. So, like, while I get where you're at, like, you could definitely lock in Allen, might be the best move, to be honest. I think I'm going to be looking at like Huntley over Matt Ryan, like we talked about, and then looking at Deshaun Watson too. But otherwise, I think we're kind of on the same page, Jordan. So I'm excited for the slate that that we have here on Saturday to tackle. So it's going to be a great weekend of sports. Again, if you haven't, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. We got more content coming for you. We got the Print Factory Showdown edition that is coming on later this afternoon. Then we got the NBA Hardwood coming on after that. Talking touchdowns, or no, it's player props. I believe tonight is the other show too. And again, we got 4-game NBA slate. We'll be in Discord. We'll be covering everything. Everything will be up for that. We got the Showdown slate tonight. Going to be an excellent one. Tons of content. Get on over to Run Pure Sports. Sign up if you're not a member. We all appreciate you guys watching. I'm AP. That's Jordan. Simon, get us out of here.